Welcome to AI Oversight Weekly briefing. Every Friday, we meet for 30 minutes to discuss what happened, why it happened, what lessons should we know this week, and who will listen this week, and what to do next. This week, we have a fantastic topic about enterprise AI stack. We do see a lot of confusion happening when people talk about different terminology in AI. For example, AI governance, AI strategy, AI risks, AI observability. So today we're going to go and demystify terminology and how it is connected into one enterprise AI stack. Please put your questions at the end of the video, and I'll be happy to answer directly to you. Session objectives. First of all, by the end of the session, you're going to be able to understand all 6 layers of the enterprise AI stack and how they are interconnected. So the second, I hope you're going to get more clarity about what each layer means and what it actually doesn't mean. I'm going to provide you some examples, real examples from industry, from companies, how people could be confused about different layers in the AI stack. So third, we're going to be able to talk about gaps. What are common gaps and misalignments are happening, and how these misalignments could potentially lead to problems in your AI deployment in a company. Because we do see a lot of questions coming about unsuccessful pilots or unsuccessful investments, or now we started seeing a lot of risk conversations about agentic implementation, for example. The fourth one, you're going to be able to recognize why leaders often are confused about what means what, and how you can help leaders to make sure that you have an interconnected enterprise AI stack and strategy. And as a takeaway, at the end of the presentation, you're going to be able to get your template to verify what exactly you have, and questions you can ask to make sure that you have a full AI stack in your company. So this template is going to be downloadable. I'm going to give you a place where you can actually go and download this template. So let's go. Agenda is really simple. We're going to start from signal, going to look at the entire enterprise stack, all 6 layers. I'm going to explain you what exactly this means, and most importantly, what each layer doesn't mean. We're also going to look at a real case study and what was done, and what type of layers have been missed with the company, and what results company actually got. Also, I'll give you leadership assessment for your AI enterprise stack. So let's start what we're hearing in the market. So to record this specific topic, I decided based on what I'm hearing across people. So if you read different type of conversations in forums on LinkedIn, also by attending the conferences, you're going to hear absolutely different examples. When leaders talk about AI governance, they could mean absolutely different things, right? So I'll give you some examples. So there are 6 leaders in my example who actually say that we have AI governance in the company, but in reality, they don't have AI governance. They have something else. So the leader number 1 got my attention when the person is talking about, we established Enterprise AI Governance Council with hub and spoke model. The center sets the standards while the business units execute. So when I read this type of story, so I immediately see that this is not the governance topic. So governance does not decide how we operationalize our strategy. So for me, this means that this company is talking about operating model, which does bring the question, does this company really have the governance? So maybe they have an operating model, but not necessarily they do have a governance. So example number 2, which I see a lot, that many AI governance councils speak about technology strategy, and the main goal they have is to approve or decline different type of AI tools. So again, this is not the governance topic. So governance is not the place to decline or approve technology tools. So these type of topics are defined as a part of your technology strategy. So then the third example is, I do see that many AI councils, the primary objective is risk management. So they focus on risk, and they call this AI governance. Again, this is not the real AI governance, right? So risk management is important, and we all should have it, but the primary governance goal is not the risk management. So then what is actually governance? So this example is showing what is the true purpose of the governance. So example from the leader could be, we have responsible AI principles, we have enterprise policies, we have approval workflows, so how the work gets done, and we clearly defined decision rights for AI investments. So one of the most important principles for AI governance is actually decision rights and accountability. And we're going to talk a little bit more later, but this is what I see is missing in many governance council is definition of decision rights. So example number 4, every production model is continuously monitored for drift, accuracy, business impact. So we absolutely need it, but this is not the governance. So this is really important side of oversight. And again, we're going to talk about this. If you're going to miss oversight, this is where your AI can potentially fail or do not deliver on value. And maybe the last example, when leaders talk about AI governance, they over-focused on operations. So they talk about our MLOps platforms, how they're going to be deployed, how the monitoring is done, how we retrain the models. Okay, wonderful. But these are tasks for operations. So this is not AI governance. Why it is important? Because we do see confusion between operating model, people call governance. They call governance is oversight. They call risk management governance. They call compliance governance. If we do not have a clear definition, which I think governance is one of the trickiest terms we learned from the data governance as well. So what we're going to see, we're going to see accountability gaps. So this is the biggest gap I see, right? Because governance by default, it's about accountability. So if there is no accountability in a company, you're going to see misaligned decisions, you're going to see weak oversight, and potentially big, risky, expensive problems in the company. You're going to see unmanaged risks, unclear accountability is leading to AI not delivering results. So what exactly is included in AI capability stack? It's really easy to remember. So I'm giving you 6 layers of AI capability stack. And for each layer, what exactly the question, like a leadership question, this capability should be answering to. So let's start from the strategy. And the key question here is why we are investing in AI. So strategy is fundamentally about answering the question why. So what I consistently see is we all solution people. We all love talking about solutions, tools, and people put all of this into the strategy, but not necessarily saying why we're going to do this, right? So first element is strategy. The second element is operating model. How we're going to deliver our strategy, how we will organize ourselves to execute on this strategy. And we're going to talk more in a minute about what exactly this means. So then we have a governance, which is people often confusing with the strategy or operating model. Governance is fundamentally answering one question is, what rules determine acceptable AI use? And a part of this, we're going to have different policies, but we also have clear accountability. What is escalation path? Who's accountable for what? How we're going to be deciding? So these are the questions governance is answering. So the number 4 layer is about oversight. And I do see that oversight is one of the layers is quite often missing with many companies. So it answers one question. How do we know the governance is working? So layer number 5, risk management. What can go wrong? So this is fundamental question, which risk should be answering. And the last, but quite of important layer is about operations. How AI is delivered and most importantly, sustained. So it is a simple stack. There are 6 layers. And if you look into them, that you might recognize actually that in your company, you might have some layers, you don't have others. You're not addressing entire stack. And this can produce significant problem for your AI deployment, for sustainability of your AI, and for, most importantly, delivering value from your efforts. So now we're going to go layer by layer and give a little bit more explanation what each layer means and what could potentially go wrong if we do not pay attention to each layer. Let's start from the strategy. So strategy, as I said, is one of the most sometimes mystery layer in the AI stack, right? So because many people who have been working in technology, working in data, we all solution people. We love solving problems. So often when we talk about strategy, we talk about solutions. We talk about tools. We talk about platforms we're going to build. We talk about data we're going to be using. But strategy is fundamentally about the question, why? Why we are invested in AI? And what are key elements of the strategy you should clearly define? First of all, what are business objectives? So what exactly your business objective for creating value from AI, from data, and from any other technology? What are growth opportunities? So it's not just about we're going to give personal AI tools, but what type of growth opportunities we're expecting AI to create. So fundamentally, AI is not about just being efficient, which I think this topic have been discussed so much. Everybody over-focused on efficiency. So, but look from the growth opportunity. And usually a growth opportunity comes into dimensions where your business is creating the most value, right? So the most value in the business gets created from your product, how you can create the better product. The most value is actually created in your engagement with your customers. So how you can move your customers from the funnel, right? So how you make sure that you offer right products at the right time, at the right price. You also provide the right support to your customers. So then another one is actually how you're gonna manufacture your product, right? So like what are your operations? So for example, in manufacturing industry, it could be how you do predictive maintenance, how you do quality control. Maybe in retail industry, it's going to be about merchandising, because this is one of the biggest area for AI to help retail companies, right? So you need to define exactly your growth opportunities. And growth opportunities is not your technology strategy. It's your business strategy. So then important fact is competitive differentiation. So if your AI strategy is about just be a little bit better than we are doing right now, that this is probably not the right ambition. Because artificial intelligence is creating enormous opportunity for companies to create competitive moat by learning from data, by learning from your knowledge, your internal knowledge, from your customer knowledge. You have an opportunity to create something which others do not have. So technically, competitors can replicate your product, competitors can replicate your go-to-market model. So what they cannot replicate your data. They cannot replicate your learning mechanism in terms of how you learn from this data, how you create better decisions every single time. So also, the strategy needs to talk about investment priorities. So where exactly we're going to be investing. And again, technology investments here is not the primary point. So investment opportunities here and priorities is about business priorities. Are we going to invest into building better product? Are we going to invest into getting more customers? Are we going to invest into making our operations more efficient? So these are the topics which are important to discuss in your strategy. And also strategy should have a long-term ambition. So one of the mistakes I'm seeing that companies place 1,000 pilots as a part of strategy and call it strategy, right? So strategy is not about how many pilots you have. So it's about what type of business goals you're going to be able to achieve in 1 year, in 2 years, and 3 years. And some people might say, maybe we don't talk 3 years anymore because everything is changing. But if you look from the business perspective, no, we still have to have our business goals. I'm not talking about technology changes, right? So our technology might be changing next 3 years, but what are our business ambitions? So one mistake which companies sometimes making with the strategy is that strategy does not determine accountability. So this is why we need operating model. So company might have a strategy, but not necessarily have operating model. So operating model answers one question: how will we organize ourselves to execute? So this is where you're going to hear about hub and spoke structures, so federated structures. You might have AI Center of Excellence. You're going to hear also about different type of talent models. Are you going to do this internally? Are you going to do this with partners? What type of roles you should have internally? What type of roles actually you're going to be outsourcing and working with different partners? Also, how this operating model is going to be funded. So are you going to be funding from the center? Are you going to be funding from every business unit? And what is going to be mechanics of this type of funding? So how you decide on funding, it is a fundamental questions of the operating model. So also platform and ownership is a part of the operating models and delivery responsibilities. So operating model fundamentally talks about how the work gets done, who is accountable for what part of the work. And it does not talk about what is permissible actually to do, right? So, and this is where we're going to go into governance. So governance creates clarity, consistency, and trust. And fundamental question your AI governance should be answering: how we will make good decisions and stay accountable. So the first, we need to determine decision rights. So the biggest mistake I'm seeing is when companies are saying we have a council and council decides. So this means that you do not have accountability in your company. You do need to have specific name, person, and function named for decision rights. So there is no such thing as collective decisioning. So accountability, decision rights are personal. They have to be named. Specific person, specific functions have to be named for decision rights. So to support decision rights, you're going to have policies and standards. Also, under governance, you're going to talk about risk management. And again, in the context of decision rights and accountability, who is accountable for what risks, and how you're going to be watching this risk, how you're going to be measuring this risk. So also the part of the governance is compliance oversight, performance monitoring, and of course, roles and responsibilities, which we just talked about. So your governance body in a company, the primary role is about how we're going to make good decisions for our AI strategy, and who stays accountable for what part of the decision. So go back and check if your AI Governance Council is actually have clear accountability. So another problem, as I mentioned, I can see here is that AI Governance Council becomes over-focused on compliance and not really focused on decision rights. So what about oversight? So this is one of the most confused layers, I would say, because companies would say, we have a governance, we do not need oversight. So oversight is actually helping us to understand that our governance is working. So how do we know that governance is working, right? And fundamentally, the governance is working when we see clear accountability for results, right? So for example, if the value from AI is not delivered, who was accountable person? So oversight is really helping to keep us on track and to keep us true to ourselves, right? So under oversight, you might have your executive like dashboards or executive KPIs where you can measure value delivery, you can measure different type of risks, you can look into the progress you're going into, right? So this is an oversight type of function of AI enterprise stack. So what is important here, and also have independent audit. It is really important specifically for companies who have different regulations. Company in healthcare, financial services companies, different companies who actually have like global trade, for example, right? So they also have to provide not just internal audit, but also external audit. And this external audit have to be done regularly and have to be reviewed by the company board. Also, oversight is helping to determine the course correction and also to get what are challenges and feedback is happening. So the part of oversight, you might want to interview your employees. You might have a survey of your employees to actually bring from the ground what exactly working, what is not working, maybe even in your operating model or maybe in your investment model. So governance and oversight, they come together. So, right, so do not miss this. In my example, which I'm going to show to you in a minute, when company doesn't have oversight, we're going to see quite a lot of problems happening. So risk management. So we did spend quite a lot of time in the past classifying different type of data risks. And I would say we didn't even fully finished the process of classifying the data risks. And now we have a really powerful technology is AI, right? So the fundamental question of your risk management is a part of AI enterprise stack is to answer the question, are we managing risk to protect the value? To protect the value of, first of all, delivering value from the programs, from your AI programs, but also protecting value of your company. So I do see that many companies and boards are classifying risks primary, kind of similar as information security risks or data risks, right? So companies are linking data classification to AI type of risks, which is okay. But the biggest risk, which is actually unclassified, it's about decision rights. Because the big promise of AI is changing decisioning. So first of all, AI can decide together with people, but people are still accountable. So what type of risk if this accountability doesn't work for some reason? So the second one is if AI decides for us, and now specifically with agentic AI, there is a lot of conversations and excitement how agents can decide for us, and now we can be completely different enterprises. But what I'm observing is that companies not classifying properly risks associated with this type of implementation. So I'll give you one example where actually implementation of AI agents can go wrong way if we're not properly classifying risks, right? So usually when companies implementing agentic workflow, so they take workflow, they define different processes, right, and put the agent to perform certain task. So agents, they do not know our business. They do not have a context, right? First, it's really important to define the context as a part of implementation of the, like agentic implementation, right? And this context by itself has certain risks, right? So you need to look closely, like what type of risks could be in your context. But the most dangerous part is it is almost impossible to identify all context, right? Because our enterprises are really complex. So we're going to put some requirements, some known requirements, maybe even really detailed, but still known requirements. And there is a lot of unknown factors. So what is happening when unknown factor is coming? So agent is not going to stop. So agent is going to go and learn from his experience, learn from your LLMs actually, and could apply unknown factors which are not even related to your company, right? So this type of risks, I do not see classified. And actually people don't even think about this yet, right? So agentic implementation expose new different type of risks. So let's go to operations, right? So operations is really important because how AI is delivered and sustained. You might have fantastic strategy. You might have all decision rights. You might have really great ambitions. You might be tracking risks and everything. But if you do not operationalize properly, that you're not going to get the value from AI. So effective operations, they turn AI from being a project. This is what I'm seeing people still call AI a project, into reliable capability. Because AI value does not stop at implementation. So this is one of the biggest mistake I'm seeing is that AI programs are organized as a project. So they have go live day. So go live day for AI is not the end. It is the beginning, because this is where your model is going to start learning. This is where your model is going to start learning from your data, is going to start learning from actions people will be taking from your data. It's also going to be learning from decisions, what you're going to take from AI, right? And so this is learning mechanism doesn't stop at your implementation. So when we talk about operations here, we talk about continuous operation. We do not talk about traditional IT project. Then this is the delivery and this is what is going to be done, right? So we're going to talk about is how it's going to be continuously operationalized, how we're going to monitor how the data management is going to be done, how security is going to evolve over time, because security also is not determined just by the launch day, right? So security actually changing through the process of AI working in our company and continuous improvement in operations. So what key misalignments between the 6 layers I'm observing when I talk to different companies and from my own experience? Example number 1, operating model is not designed to deliver on strategy. So we have ambition strategy. We might say our operating model is hub and spoke, but in reality, there is no clarity about decision rights. There is no clarity about financial mechanics, who is paying for what, how it's going to be work, right? So this is one of the biggest misalignment I'm seeing is between strategy and operating model. So the second one is misalignment between operating model and governance. An example which I talked before, when companies saying our governance is work in hub and spoke, and we're not going to dictate regions or our franchises or our business units what they should be doing. They can do whatever they want, and we just have a control of the platform in its center, right? So this is the confusion between what is your operating model, what is your true governance is. So this means that you might not even have the governance. So the third confusion is about governance and oversight. Again, people say, I have a governance, which means I have an oversight. So they see this as the same. It's not the same. As I gave you example, oversight is here to make sure that governance is working. So in my book, I'm actually saying that oversight is working when nobody is watching, right? So when nobody is watching, oversight is protecting you. So the fourth one is oversight versus risk management. Again, big confusion. So for example, risks are proactively assessed and mitigated. And this is what we, would love to look at. What is important, again, oversight is identifies issues, but risks aren't properly assessed and mitigated, right? So this needs to be linked together. So, and next one is about risk management and operations. So again, risk management, operations, not the same thing. So risk controls have to be built in the way how you're personalizing the delivery of your artificial intelligence. And the last one about operations and strategy. So we're kind of going back to the loop. So insights from operations continuously inform and improve our strategy, right? So we do need to have this learning mechanism to make sure that we are staying true to ourselves. So let's give you specific examples, and when all layers actually matter, right? So we have strategy, operating model, governance, oversight, risk management, and operations. I'll give you an example from manufacturing industry. So in manufacturing industry, there are many use cases which actually bring a lot of value, right? So one of those use cases, it's a product quality control. So product quality control, it's not something new. Companies have been doing product quality control for a long, long time, right? And before technology, product quality control have been done manually by people. So people have been observing the product, doing different checks, right? So over time, technology started improving, and now AI actually brings tremendous value to product quality control, right? So many factories already have this type of model implemented, right? So usually, I'm just giving you like a simple example setup, right? So there is a camera which are maybe taking the picture of the product, and there is an AI model who looks at the picture from different type of dimension, make a comparison to the sample size, to training model, And this type of model goes into, factory line, and you can make decision in real time at the factory line if it's a good product or not good product, right? So from my past, I had a chance to work across different industries, the food industry and hardcore industrial manufacturing, right? And I saw this type of models installed in different variations in different factories, right? And they usually installed into more sensible processes, right? So for example, in, let's say like in the food business, this type of model could be installed to control the quality of your bottle, right? So like, if the properly the lid on the bottle is working, or, some kind of mechanics, right? And industrial manufacturing, you can actually look for different type of defects in the product, which might be happening, or like material defect or anything else. So what happened in this specific example? So the model was developed, the model was validated, the model was deployed, and it's actually got into real production line, right? So the production conditions changed, and the model started drifting. So the factory people, they were not aware about that, what could be actually happening with the model, right? So, and they started observing that a lot of good products have been identified as actually bad products, right? And getting a lot of false positive results. Nobody was not noticing what is happening until business accumulated significant losses. And as a result, model have been removed, right? But going back to our enterprise stack, so what type of story this example actually tells? That they did have a strategy, right? So they have really clear objective, right? So business objective was clear: improve product quality through AI. So they did have an operating model, right? So team successfully developed and deployed the solution. So they did have a governance. Deployment was approved and decision rights existed. But what they did not have oversight. No one had been monitoring performance, or they didn't have an escalation path. So they didn't have a proper risk management. So model was drifting, but the drift was not identified early enough until company accumulated a lot of loss. And the last one, for operations, the model was not retrained. I mean, this is exactly what I'm describing to you, right? So when you, there is no such thing as we deployed AI, we're done. There is no such thing as done, right? So you deploy this model into the factory, you have to have retraining mechanisms. You have to have recalibration. You have to have life cycle management. You have to have operational ownership after the deployment. And in this example, and again, this is not just one example, right? Many examples when it's considered as IT project. It's done, put it in production. Okay, now it needs to deliver value. We're not even kind of, watching, right? So it's really different. So AI doesn't work as a project. It's a product. So you do need to have a life cycle. So what type of learnings we can quickly summarize from this? So one clear learning. So AI value is not created at deployment. There is no such thing as done in AI. So AI value is created, protected, measured, and sustained across all 6 layers over time. So it is important takeaway from this type of example. So now what you can do. So I would love to give you really simple template. And I do have only 2 questions for you to answer. If you have, as a part of your enterprise stack, if you have strategy, operating model, governance, oversight, risk management, and operations. Really simple. You can get this you can get basically this template for yourself. Really easy to use, really easy to communicate to your manager and to your board as well. So you can actually say at where you are at maturity, right? So where's your maturity in the strategy? Where's your maturity in operating model? So how you do it? Are you do it ad hoc, or you actually do have operating model in your company, right? So the same as for oversight, risk management, and operations. And you can calculate your score, right? So you can do like a simple scoring in terms of like where you are in implementing AI as enterprise capability. So again, this is not the detailed template. I'm going to have more resources, more detailed template, how you can rate yourself, what type of detailed questions you have been asking in each dimension. And I would love to give you some additional resources. First of all, I'm doing this type of sessions every Friday. So please follow me on LinkedIn. Please sign up for sessions. You're going to have great insights. You're going to have resources you can use at your work. So next session is going to be with a fantastic guest, which I'm going to announce soon. We're going to talk about transition intelligence. And so also a lot of frameworks I'm showing you here as a part of my AI Oversight book. So the book is available at Amazon, Barnes Noble. It's available internationally at all platforms. You can find it in India, you can find it in Japan, you can find it in Dubai, any country, local platforms, you can find my book. And the third resources, which I would love to give you. So I'm establishing the channel where people can go and download all these frameworks, have a conversations, have a community discussion. It is AI Oversight at Substack. Really easy to remember, AI Oversight at Substack. So I wish you a fantastic day. Hope this was exciting topic to discuss. Please put your questions into the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much.